Welcome, welcome. I am your host, Dr. Martha Latz, and our show is It's All About You, broadcasting from the East Coast where I have an office in South Florida. My expertise is as a licensed marriage and family therapist, transition coach, and all things to do with social media, communication, at work, at home, and with friends. To learn more about me, please check out my website at www.auniquetherapycenter.com. So you're listening to It's All About You, and I'm your host, Dr. Martha. And remember that this is where the world comes to talk, and so do we. So are you ready for another amazing and informative show? I know I am. And the topic is on parenting with PTSD. She is a courageous community action leader. She also is an author, as I said before. She is also a presenter on a trauma-informed care practices and what it means to heal from trauma. She herself is a survivor of childhood abuse and co-manages Becoming Trauma-Informed and Beyond. Her name is Dawn Daum, and she also co-edits. This lady is amazing and is an author along with Jolie Brandt and the re-release of Parenting with Post-Traumatic Stress. As I read her book, I felt connected to a very vibrant and courageous community that comes alive in her book, and how it is so important to recognize and to call it by its name and to speak out about it and to educate mental health professionals and all healthcare professionals about parenting with PTSD and the breaking of the cycle, this generational trauma, in order to be able to parent well as a survivor. That's a lot. Take a moment and take that in. If you get a chance, please get her book on parenting with post-traumatic stress. What sets this parenting focus apart is that it started as a much-needed conversation around the fact that about 1/3 and possibly plus children experience some childhood abuse. And that there was never a formal question that was formally asked, and that no one has really ever dared to ask the question, what happens when those children who have grown up with experiences of childhood abuse and trauma and have children of their own? What happens? Well, that was until now. Raising children as a survivor of childhood abuse, as Dawn discovered, was a lonely and isolating experience. The worst part is the feeling that you are broken and alone. Many survivors of childhood abuse and family dysfunction are living with undiagnosed PTSD that becomes unmanageable when the survivor themselves have children of their own. The mission of Dawn Daum is to build a supportive community, to educate professionals, and to help families understand their experiencing of parenting as survivors of abuse and dysfunction. Dawn Daum is a wealth of wisdom, and it is born out of her own lived experience. Please welcome my guest, a truly remarkable woman who is not afraid of speaking up and out, and what it is like parenting with PTSD resulting from childhood abuse and dysfunction. Welcome, Dawn. It is a pleasure to have you on today.
Thank you, Martha. I am very excited to be here with you today, and thank you very much for the kind words.
Oh, it was my pleasure. It was more than, if I could have thought of any more words as I was reading your book, it was just so vibrant, and you could tell that it was a progress, and it's always going to change, and it's always going to expand and include more. So yes, thank thank you for joining me today on this broadcast. Dawn, before we begin to embark on this topic of this unrecognized and underdiagnosed and often mistreated PTSD condition that is missed by the Diagnostic Manual for Healthcare Professionals, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about what you've been up to as this remarkable, courageous woman that you are. What are you currently about these days?
All right. So first and foremost, I'm a mother. I have 2 children. I have a son who is 7 years old, and I have a 10-year-old daughter. They challenge me daily, but I am enjoying the ride. I am also a program director for a recovery community residence where individuals who have a mental health diagnosis and also a substance abuse diagnosis come to reside to try to get their lives back on track.
Okay, and, that's pretty exciting. What puts a smile on your face daily?
You know, I get to see people really struggling on a day-to-day basis. So in that context, what puts a smile on my face is when I see people come to their own conclusions that they are making progress. When I get to see people break through the sadness and grief that comes along with healing and make connections with one another and just experience very basic joy in their life, really.
Oh, wow. Oh, yes. I kind of agree with you on that. That is a moment of those aha moments when you see it, and you can't describe what it's like unless you actually are present to that. So thank you for sharing that with us. Dawn, we're going to start adding to that conversation about how you got here and what it takes to heal from the childhood abuse and have a vital relationship and have children who thrive. So I'm going to turn it over to you and let you start talking about that. Okay?
All right. So this really all came to head for me when I decided to become a stay-at-home mom with my second child. You know, I was surrounded daily, 24/7, by these little people. You know, they were constantly tugging on me and needing me and wanting me. And that's all very good stuff. But what I was experiencing in the process and not understanding why was I was really struggling with wanting to run away from my children instead of towards them. I was very confused. I had done the work before I became a mom. I was 28, and I was determined to, get myself into a place where I thought that I was ready. So I finished school. I went to therapy. I thought I had all of my issues worked out, but turns out that no matter how much preparation you do to become a mom, when you're a survivor of abuse, when you become a parent, you are going to be faced with triggers that you never had the opportunity to come head to head with before then. So there's really no way to be prepared for it. What I hope to do is just make parents aware that this happens. And it's not a matter of if, but a matter of when. So in my own journey, go ahead.
Go ahead. In your own journey, that I wanted to stop. So you were just there. I want to interject a question here. In your own journey, you had done your work. You thought you were ready. You gave birth to these beautiful children, and then all of a sudden, it was like you were running away. What did you think you had? What do you think that when you went to the gynecologist or when you went for your checkups, what do you think you had at that point in time? What did they talk to you about?
You know, I really just chalked it up to depression. I mean, I had struggled with depression since I was a teenager, and I did have the conversation with my OB and even my primary as I was starting to plan to start my family. And I said, I just want to make you guys aware that I have a long history of depression, and that's all I could. That's the only language I had for it. In the midst of it, yes, I was equating it to a depression, but I was also equating it to, I'm too broken to do this. I never should have done this.
Oh, wow.
And that can do a lot of damage.
Oh, sure.
To both yourself and the relationship with your children. When you have no context to put in or no language to describe what you're experiencing, can be very damaging.
And it could also be damaging to your primary relationship to your partner and your husband, correct? The father.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Wow. Okay. So how did you make this discovery?
It really wasn't until I started connecting with other parents, and that happened because as a way to try to combat the depression that I was experiencing, I started a blog. I've always been a writer, and it was a suggestion of a friend, start a blog and just start writing. And that's what I did. But what I was writing and sharing on the internet was mainly just stories about, the kind of trials and tribulations of motherhood. I tend to be a humorous, sarcastic individual, so a lot of my stories were funny. But as I started to get more into this, I started to trust the idea of putting what I was actually experiencing out there. And so that's what I did. I wrote a story called Raising a Girl as a Survivor. And I posted it, I was lucky enough to have it shared on a very popular platform called Scary Mommy. And I talked about, being at a barbecue and having a man that I'm very comfortable with comment on the way that my daughter looked and how that it shut me down. It made me feel like I was the child again, because I was just assuming that there was something bad was going to happen to her because this man was looking at her. I talked about how difficult it was to go into my children's room at night and give them a kiss goodnight. And this is very normal, loving acts that I'm doing, but I'm not feeling that way when I'm doing it. And the response I got from that was so many parents, particularly women, saying, me too. I thought I was the only one. I never thought of it that way. And one particular woman, Joyelle Brandt, reached out to me and said, I too have been looking all over the place for information on this. All there is there's so much on parenting and there's so much on child abuse, but nobody's talking about what it's like to parent as a child abuse survivor. And she very bravely asked me if I wanted to create the resource with her that we both went out looking for. And that's what we did.
Oh,
that's
wow.
how it all got started.
Oh, wow. That's how it got started. This is a lot of good information. I'm going to put a pause here and we're going to take a break. You've been listening to It's All About You.